late from work. You know, I just like thought about something that happened to me one night. I was driving home and I got lost. And granted, we had been living in this house for maybe 6 months when it happened. I had been back to work 2 months, and I was driving home, and I don't know how I missed the exit, and I missed it, and then I was like driving, and I was in a strange neighborhood, and I didn't want to stop because I didn't feel safe, and I was like, where in the world am I? And that moment for me reminds me of what was going through my mind, where I was like, I don't know where I am mentally or who I am.
Yeah.
And it was scary.
Yes. It's very scary. Yes, absolutely. Oh, yeah, it's just like it's consuming all of like the what if thoughts and scenarios. And in the moment, it's like, do you believe those things to be true? And when you are on the other side, right, and you're able to say it out loud, it's like, really? Like it just goes to show you like where your mind and your mental health is after or even during pregnancy, but after you give birth, right?
Yep.
And I think that is the biggest thing. And I talk about it all the time about, this awareness and knowledge. And it drives me nuts that we are seen so often while we're pregnant and nobody takes the time to bring awareness. And I will say, I mean, I can only speak to my OB who I love, but they don't have to get hours on learning about perinatal mood and anxiety disorders. And so they don't have this knowledge. And it's not okay, but at the same time, I can't blame them because nobody's making them learn about this stuff, right?
Yeah.
A major gap. And I think that so many times people go through it, myself included, like that's never going to happen to me. I'm so happy. I've
Oh,
never been
yeah.
depressed. I don't have a history of that, right? Not realizing that it does not discriminate. It doesn't care who you are, your income, your job. It doesn't care. It does not care, which is why so many celebrities can suffer with it, right?
Yeah.
And there's so much that goes into it. There's so many facts. Like it can happen during pregnancy. It's not just postpartum.
Yeah.
It's not just
Yeah.
depression. Like it can happen anytime up until a year postpartum, and it can go way past a year, especially if you don't get that help. So that I remember when this horrible thought came across my mind, I'm like, this can't be postpartum depression because I didn't feel depressed. And two, I didn't have it with my first. And three, I'm like, I'm 4 months postpartum. This happens like right after you give birth. And
And
that
four,
is,
you're smart.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And yeah, right. And sadly, when I did like come clean to my husband, I knew that in that moment I needed to get help immediately. And it was a Saturday. We went to the hospital, and I knew that if I wanted to get help, I needed to be honest. And I did. And so I was put into, or not put into, but I was up into the psychiatric unit. And I don't share that to scare people because I hear from so many moms like, well, I don't want to go there. I had no choice. Like that was the
Yeah.
safest place for me in the moment. And I don't regret it one bit because I know how much I was going through because I found comfort in being there. And I had so much hope that I was going to leave there with answers of what was wrong with me. Right. And sadly, when I told my story again to the psychiatrist, the male psychiatrist there, he completely dismissed me. And he just kept asking me, you're married? You live in this town? You have two healthy kids? You're a teacher? Like, as if like someone like me doesn't belong there. And I
Yeah.
was no different than anyone else there. They were all there for different reasons, but they all wanted to get help. So I felt so dismissed. And I was discharged with no diagnosis. And he told me that it was not postpartum depression for the same exact reasons why I didn't think I had it because
Oh,
I
that makes my blood boil.
I know I didn't have it with my first. I'm too far postpartum, blah blah blah. He just said it sounds like you're just a worrier. And that's not okay because
Oh
I had
my
a husband
God.
that was thankfully advocating for me. And that answer did not sit right for him with him. And so he fought to continue to get me answers, right? But what about that person that doesn't have that support system, that goes home with no answers? It's not okay. And clearly, that psychiatrist was not educated in these mood disorders because he was so wrong. Like, it can happen at any point. It can happen with
Absolutely.
any pregnancy. So just because I didn't have it with my first doesn't mean I can't have it with my second, my third, my fourth. There's so many risk factors. You brought up, a family history of anxiety. Well, that's a risk factor. It doesn't mean you're
Yeah.
automatically going to suffer, but it does increase your risk. So there's so many problems and gaps, and it's very, very, very sad because I feel like we could be helping moms out right from the beginning when they're expecting, and at the very least, early on at their 6-week checkup.
Absolutely. And that brings me back to like when I started sharing my story and why I wanted to share my story. I wanted to share my story because for reasons like you went to a professional, right?
Hmm.
Who you would think would at least listen to you, right? We just want, as women especially, to be heard, right? Like, just hear me out. Just listen to me. Remove your biases. Stop assuming that I am seeking attention. Because if all I wanted was a nap because I have a newborn baby, I could just pass out and like go to the hospital for regular medical care, right? So for me, why I wanted to share my story was that maybe some woman who had gone to a physician and didn't feel heard could say, oh, wait, I'm not crazy. I'm not making things up. I don't have an unexplained illness. Something's wrong with my brain. And I'm going to find somebody who will listen to me. I'm Shira Bergbauer, and you're listening to an excerpt from the Stethoscopes to Swaddles podcast. You can listen to the whole episode wherever you get your podcasts, and look out for new episodes out every Monday. You're doing a great job, Mama. I'll see you next week. Bye now.